Hey folks, this video is going to walk through how to install an HID upgrade kit, aftermarket upgrade kit on a 2007 Mazda 5. This would also work on the same generation Mazda 3, since those cars are basically underneath the sheet metal, mechanically the same car, so all the connections and the way the headlights work and such should be identical for a Mazda 3. Don't know whether this would work on something like a Mazda 6 of that same year, but certainly for the Mazda 5, of course, and the Mazda 3. So in order to do this, what you'll need to purchase, or what I purchased, would be first the kit. I used a Kensun H7, which is the bulb type for the Mazda. 5000K color temperature, which I really liked. Not too blue, not too white. I was really happy with the light quality of that. And I got the slim conversion kit. You don't have to get the slim, I guess, but it fits nicely within the engine bay there, and haven't had any issues with it, although that's only in one day of use so far. The second thing is the HID conversion kit single beam relay wiring harness, also with H7 connectors on it. This may or may not be required, but I actually found that it made the installation easier, and I'll explain that a little later. And also just I decided to get that rather than risk kind of melting wires by running too much current through the stock wiring harness. So would also recommend that. And then the third thing, which you have to purchase, are the conversion light holder adapters. And on Amazon, it's called a light holder adapter for Mazda 3.6, and obviously also works on the Mazda 5. You need this in order to fit the bulbs, to hold the bulbs in place in the headlight housing on the Mazda. This is the relay harness. It's not required. On some cars you need it, from my research, and on others you don't. And basically it comes down to whether or not your standard wiring harness and the light socket, the light switch, if you will, the wiring for it, can handle the amps that flow to the ballast. And my understanding is it draws something like, I think I heard it draws 60 amps right initially, which seems incredibly high. So whatever it is, there's some question of whether the stock wiring harness will handle it or not. So if you get the relay kit, basically what it does is it pulls the voltage needed, the power needed to run the ballast. It'll pull that directly from the battery, and then it will just simply use your headlight switch to basically turn the relay on and off. So take the 12 volts from your headlight, use that to run the relay, and then it'll draw the current directly from the battery to run the ballast. So this is what the relay looks like. So this is your main, the harness looks like, this is your main relay. This cost about, I think it was $26 on Amazon, something like that. You might be able to find them cheaper. For me, it was money well spent. So in terms of kind of how to hook it up, and this is not the finished product, but just kind of everything connected. There's a fuse, and then there's a hot that I just wired into my positive battery terminal block there. So that was straightforward to do. Just loosen that 10mm bolt that seemed to fit well there. That runs then into the relay. Then there's a male connector that comes off the relay, and you will put that into the ballast, into the female red plug, in this case, of the ballast. And then there's a ground that I just strapped right next to the brake fluid reservoir there. That worked well. So that's kind of on the driver's side. All the connections, and I'll show you how that connects into the bulb in a second. Then there's a kind of long cable here, conduit, whatever you want to call it, that goes over to the passenger side, and basically the same thing. There's a ground here. I'll try to show. You see that black wire down there. Right, I'll get my hand. This guy there connects. There was a nice ground right down there that I connected it to, and then same thing. The male from the relay goes into the ballast. That's on the passenger side. And again, these aren't kind of put away and cleaned up yet. And then that's it in terms of the relay. There's no other plug. Some relay kits. This is the H7 for an H7 bulb that the Mazda uses. And some relay kits have another plug here that you would plug into the headlight switch here. But in my case, I don't need it. So actually, one of the reasons I like the relay kit is because the headlight switch, wherever it is, and you're looking at this kind of post installation after I've wired everything, the headlight switch on this side, the headlight wire, you don't need to hook up to anything. It's down here somewhere. There it is. So this I'll just tape this up, and that'll just never get used again. Okay. So then, in terms of how to wire up the bulbs then themselves, and again, this is after I've installed everything. The bulbs then, the bulb will then go, there's two wires, and you can't mess them up because there's different connectors. These will go into the ballast on the passenger side, and then same thing on the driver's side, into the ballast there. So these are bulbs in the ballast. So that's this connection. These two connectors here would be the same regardless of whether you have the relay kit or not. On the relay harness, this plug, which is plugged in, needs to go into your main headlight wire, headlight connector. So the headlight connector that comes from the car that gets switched on then trips the relay, which then sends the voltage directly from the battery into your ballast, which is there. One thing I noticed is that the connector that comes with your bulbs, this is an H7 connector, does not quite fit the connector that controls your headlights from the car. So this is from the car. What you'll see is it's just not quite, this is actually a little wider, and you have to kind of bend them in. So instead of messing with that, what I did is cut these wires that are going to tie into the headlight connector from your car. So this was attached to the bulb. So this came from the bulbs. This actually went through the rubber grommet on the bulb. I'll show you that in a little while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two, put some connectors on them, and then plug them directly into the headlight switch. And the nice thing about that also is that all of this is now outside of the kind of assembly within the headlight, where there's not a lot of room in there anyway, and I wasn't really sure how they expected you to plug all that in. So you'll see those two holes there, is what this went through. These wires went through that. So basically I kind of pulled them out of that whole assembly. I'll connect everything externally outside of this little headlight assembly, and that way it's a lot cleaner on the inside. So when I'm done, and I'll clean this up and probably wrap it up with some electrical tape, that's basically what it looks like. So that's the headlight connector, the main headlight connector from the car, and then these two wires will go to the relay, which is here. And again, I'll clean this all up. This is just to kind of test it, make sure everything works. So on the Mazda, as anybody who has tried to replace a headlight on this car or a Mazda 3, I'm not sure about the other Mazdas, but certainly this car and the Mazda 3, because they're basically the same car underneath. There's a retaining clip, which I'll show a little later, which is an absolute nightmare to get off and on with the headlights. So what I decided to do, believe it or not, which is actually easier, is remove the front bumper and then remove the headlight assemblies and pull them out, which I'll show you a little later. So to remove the front bumper, it's actually not too bad. You do have to kind of jack the car up to get access to the wheel well. And then there are 3 screws that need to be removed. There's the holes for them, 1, 2, 3. 3 screws there. Underneath the car, there's going to be, and I've already removed the belly pan, but if you can see some of those screw holes there, there's a whole series, I don't know, 7 or 8 of those all along the kind of the bottom lip of the bumper, and those all need to be removed. And then importantly, if I can get a good view of it, there's a bolt. I probably won't be able to show it, but it's right behind here, and it goes up like this. So you'll access it from the bottom, kind of up through here. I can't get a good view of it. It's under this wheel well cover, and up there, and you need to remove that to remove the bumper. Otherwise, you'll kind of rip off the plastic, which isn't the end of the world, but you'll need to remove that. I mean, that's the best way to do it. Remove that, and then the bumper just kind of pops off pretty easily. Actually, here on the top, there's going to be a bolt and a plastic pin that go here. Bolt and a plastic pin that go here on both sides. And then you just kind of, this whole thing will come off, and just kind of pull this out like that, and that's it. So, all right, so next thing you're going to want to do is remove the headlight assembly, and to do that you need to remove, there's a plastic, one of these plastic pins that you just pry out with a screwdriver. Here on the top there is a bolt in there, which is a little hard to see. So in there's a bolt. These are all 10 millimeters. You might feel like when you lift it off that you need to remove these 2 bolts, which I did on the first headlight, but you do not. You just need to kind of lift up and out to get that out. And then there's 1 bolt of these 3 bolts or to actually want to remove the bottom one. In there, if you can see that bottom bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then that will remove the headlight assembly. I've removed the headlight assembly, and you don't have to take it all the way off. You could if you wanted to. I just kind of get it out far enough to get access to the low beam. And on these cars, as I've already mentioned, and there are many YouTube videos and articles about this, but trying to get off this retainer clip and get it back on is a nightmare on these cars, which is why I removed the front bumper, because it's, believe it or not, easier to remove the front bumper and remove the headlight assembly than to try to do this part with the headlight assembly on the car. It's possible, you can do it, I've done it, but it is in 45 minutes. You know, if you're lucky, you do it in 5 minutes. If you're not lucky, you're spending 45 minutes and probably a couple of years off your life trying to get this thing back on. So, so this is basically what it looks like. This is the stock headlight with the stock connector on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that. All right, so here's the this clip. So just pry it off with pliers. So now I'm going to pull this out. Another good reason to have the wiring get the relay harness is you basically don't need to plug any power from this, you know, from one of the lights. From in my case, in the case of the Mazda, the connector for the relay will be on the driver's side. So on the passenger side, you actually don't even need to connect anything from the stock headlight connector. So actually I'll just wrap that up in tape, and that actually isn't used. Okay, so this is the new HID bulb, the H7 bulb. This is the original bulb, and what you'll see is it's got this adapter on it. Okay, so I unplug that, and you'll see this is the original bulb. This is this adapter thing. Basically, you don't need this anymore. You could put it on. Well, actually, you couldn't put it on because it's got these plugs on it, and there'd be nowhere to run the wires for the HID bulb. So what you have to get is one of these things. You have to get a set of these, and I have one on each headlight, and it's called a H7 HID xenon adapter for Mazda 3, Mazda 6. I got it off of these. I got off of Amazon. They're like $5. But you need to have this, otherwise that spring won't be able to. The spring needs to connect to this to hold the bulb in tightly. Otherwise, if you just have the original bulb, the spring won't be able to hold it in tightly enough. So as you can see, this adapter is kind of the shape of this thing, but it's got little wires. It's got a little slot there so you can run the wires through it for the bulb. The other thing is, on this bulb, I've already removed, you can see here, I've already cut off the connector that would normally go to the headlight switch, because you don't need it, as I was saying, because you have the relay harness. All right, so now I've got my, here's my this is my HID bulb. Again, make sure you're wearing gloves. So when you install it, you'll see there's a little notch there, and there's a notch on the, you can see there's kind of that flat part with a notch on the bulb. What you need to make sure you do is that you get that lined up so it fits correctly. I don't know if you can see that. So the notch on the bulb around the bulb base, fits right there into the notch. Those little notches. If you don't do that, the bulb won't sit straight. And then the adapter will just slide over that and just holds everything in place. And that's it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clip, which now is not too hard to put on, and put it around that adapter, and that'll hold the bulb in place. Here's the finished bulb with the adapter with the clip in place. And that took me, because I pulled out the headlight, that took me about 10 seconds to do instead of 45 minutes and many bloody knuckles and a couple years off my life. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rubber boot. It slides. Again, I've only got 2 wires because I removed the 2 wires that I don't need, that I explained earlier, that go to the headlight switch. I'm just going to pop this over this and put the rubber boot on. You'll see it's a nice clean installation once you do that. So this is what the finished product looks like with the grommet boot, whatever you want to call it, around the back of the low beam. You've just got the 2 wires coming out. I didn't have to do any modification to this. When you get the kit, depending which one you have, it may tell you to drill a 1-inch hole or to widen this by 1 inch, but with the rubber boot that comes with the bulb itself, that's that inner part kind of with those 4 holes where the wires are coming out. And then this on top of it, it seems to be a pretty good fit. Seems to be pretty watertight. I guess time will tell. But as you can see, it's pretty clean. You've just got these 2 wires coming out now. I'll plug those into the ballast, and you're done. So again, on the passenger side, if you have the relay kit, the only 2 wires you need from your bulb are these, which will just plug into the relay to the ballast itself, and you're done. So like I said, it's a pretty clean installation. Whether or not you actually need the relay kit or not on the Mazda, I don't know, but I would recommend just getting it anyway. Cleaner installation. You're guaranteed that you're not going to blow a fuse in your fuse box from running too many amps through the wires. So that's that. Okay, now we'll start doing the final hookups. All right, so here's the final wiring. So an installation, almost final. The only thing I don't have, the ballast. I'm going to mount here. I've seen some other people just use some good double-sided, or some good Velcro, heavy-duty Velcro. So I'm actually going to do that instead of drill holes through the sheet metal. So on the passenger side, just tuck some things on the Mazda, on the 5. You can there's a nice little compartment kind of there where I tucked in. There's a capacitor or something block back there. Just use some wire ties, and then that leads nicely into the headlights. That's nice and clean. Those connectors, and then ran the kind of plastic conduit there, runs above the radiator to the relay block. So the relay's down there. Not really sure, where to put that. It just kind of lays there, so I'll probably just kind of leave it there like that. Maybe wrap it. I'm not sure. The positive cable into the battery actually went really nice. You can see it goes down there under the battery, and then there's a hole, and then it comes, and then that little thin red wire comes up really nice there. So nice and clean up into the battery case, and I'll close that up. And then the other ballast on the driver's side, again, I'll do the same thing. I'll mount that with some Velcro. There's the ground there, that small black wire. The connectors here, was also able to stuff some of the things, the capacitor in the back there, and just kind of bundle up the rest of it. And then here's the headlight switch, and this is coming from the car. And then this is where I had previously kind of cut those two wires and just did some connectors into that. So I wrapped that with some of this tape, kind of this electrical sealant tape. It's almost kind of like a putty. It's not electrical tape, it's more like a putty, a soft putty that you can wrap. I've used that in outdoor applications successfully, so I think with wrapping that should make it watertight. Hopefully not too much to worry about there. I don't think it gets too wet up here, as long as you have the splash guard underneath on. So that's pretty much it. If you want to see, I'll provide some night photos, but kind of pop this off, and we'll flip the lights on. And you'll see them come on. You'll see that they kind of get brighter. They take probably, looks like about 10 seconds to warm up. And there they are, and they look plenty bright, much better than the stock bulbs, which I was not too impressed with. And I was also having an issue with one of the lights kind of going off on a loose connector. So that's solved now by just getting rid of that connector. So that's it. Thanks, and hope this helps some folks.